3, 2, 1, 8.
On KBLA, James Farr's on the mic, lifting up the people, keeping hope in sight. With Altadena spirit, he fights the good fight, speaking truth to power, shining the light. Flames try to break us, but we're standing tall. Lost our homes, but we ain't lost at all. Through the smoke and the ashes, we see the sun. Altadena's fight has just begun. Just begun. We'll rise again, we'll build it strong. Through the struggle, yes, we belong. Hand in hand, through dust and pain, Altadena's heart remains.
Live from Lamert Park, KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to The Conversation Live, Altadena Rising. This is the show of record, and we are chronicling for the nation the devastating January Altadena fire, which devastated community. I want to thank you for allowing me into your living rooms, into your homes. You may be in your garage, you may be out doing some activities with the family. I appreciate you allowing me into your space and sharing this day and this program with us. Before I tell you about today's program, I want to invite you to follow us on social media at KBLA Talk 1580. You can also follow me at James Farr Live across all the social media platforms. And then if you've missed any of our previous broadcasts, like our town hall, some of our other guests have been on there. I come to mind Bennett Perry's joint. DL Lyons was here last week. They were small business owners. You can go to our podcast and catch up on all of our previous episodes. So let me tell you about what we're going to do today. we got a full conversation ahead of us. I'm going to spend the entire hour this morning with Maria Salinas, and she is the president and CEO of the Los Angeles area Chamber of Commerce, and that great organization has a recovery fund that we want to tell you about. And if you're a small business, perhaps you may qualify. They are giving up to $25,000 to small businesses and nonprofits. We'll get a little bit more into the weeds of the economic impact on this region as a result of the LA wildfires, Palisades, and, we're focusing here on Altadena. So we're going to welcome her in just a little bit. But I want to get to, real quick, my facts, all facts, no cap. It's that kind of part of the program where I just kind of talk for a quick second and bring you some information. I told you before, early on, FEMA was folding and there were problems. We'll talk a little bit more about the dismantling of FEMA and how that impacts disaster areas and, how that impact is here locally. We've also told you that the soil is bad, right? I mean, now we're seeing reports that are coming out in the LA Times and other news publications that is going 6 inches deep enough. I don't know. I don't think so, but I know we've had guests on here who have talked about soil remediation and the need to go a little bit deeper. I do appreciate everyone that reaches out, when I'm outside in the community, folks that I see at different places who let me know that they're listening to the show. I also appreciate the DMs that come through IG, and one comes to mind. Someone said, hey, you never cite sources with the information that you're sharing. Okay, well, I think we are the source. Unfortunately, in our local community, there's an absence of black media. And this radio station, this black-owned radio station, is the only station that has dedicated programming time so that the stories in Altadena are not forgotten. I think about the late Joe Hopkins, and I wonder what Mr. Hopkins would say. Joe Hopkins was the publisher of the Pasadena Journal, which was the longest and oldest standing, it's now shuttered, black-owned publication in that region. I really miss his voice and this time. But we are regulated by the FCC. We are a news agency. We are a broadcast station. And so, my thought was, do you reach out to some of those other alphabets and ask them who are their source? Now, I welcome discourse, right? I mean, if you have an opinion on how we should document these stories, how we should be telling these stories, I'm going to open up the phone lines one week and you're welcome to call, right? In fact, you can call today, 800-920-1580. We'd love to hear from you, but I welcome the discourse because I'm not the authority on how to tell the story. I am just an authority on telling the story through our voice, and that's exactly what we're going to do right here on this black-owned talk radio station. So I guess that is the fact. Let me make it clear. The fact is we are the source. I'm the source. We are the source and the sauce. And we're going to continue to memorialize and document these stories because this is the show of record. When we come forward, Maria Salinas, President and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. She's going to be in the seat, right? She's going to tell you about this recovery fund. And if you know somebody from a small business who owns a small business nonprofit, you may want to put a pin on this particular episode. Tell them to get online right now. If you're listening in your car, text somebody safely, right? Tell them to listen. They're going to want to hear what Miss Salinas is talking about and what this fund is. But I got some questions for her, right? Equity is a big issue with funds, and we see corporations that are funding things, but I don't know about how everything is making it into the people who need it. You're listening to The Conversation Live, Altadena Rising. I'm your host, James Farr, and we are sponsored by Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power. We've got a lot to talk about.
On January 7th, 2025, the Eaton Canyon Fire scorched Altadena, torching everything in its path. Homes, wealth, and legacy burned in one night. But will Altadena rise from the ashes? I'm James Farr. On The Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, we're chronicling the recovery, the resilience, and justice for the nation. This is the show of record. Unapologetically progressive. We're not blacking down. So join me, James Farr, on The Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific with the rebroadcast on Sunday at noon.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Paid the cost to be the boss. I paid the cost to be the boss. Look at me. You know what to see. See a bad mother. Look at me. You know what to see. See a bad mother. Paid the cost to be the boss. Paid the cost to be the boss. Look at me. Know what to see? See a bad mother. Huh.
I had to let that thing breathe. Welcome forward, KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to The Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, and I am your host, James Farr. As I told you before we came forward, we have a very special guest in studio today. Maria Salinas is the president and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce, and she is the first woman and Latina, to head this organization up in its 132-year history. They represent roughly over 235,000 members within their organization, and they've partnered with Lendistry to administer a small business fund that is available to small businesses, nonprofits, and it's upwards of about $25,000 to those grant awardees. And she's going to tell us all about that. But we're going to welcome her in, right? And I got some questions, right? But so, Maria, welcome. Should I say Maria, Miss Salinas?
Maria, please. I'm sorry. And thank you very much for having me here and for welcoming me here. I've enjoyed even touring the studio, so it's been wonderful.
Isn't the artwork amazing?
I love the artwork.
It is. I didn't want to, because we can't gloss over, and there's a lot of things that we want to unpack, including what this fund is,
yes.
Including how it is reaching those most impacted. But I had to put a pin when I was reading your bio into the first woman.
Yes.
In 132 years?
In 132 years, I was named the first woman to be the president and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. It's an organization with a deep history in Los Angeles, and the fact that I was the first woman and the first Latina, the LA Times called it the two first for the LA Chamber, and it really is unbelievable that it took that long.
So I guess instead of me playing James Brown, the boss, I should have played This Is a Man's World, or maybe, but you broke that ceiling, right? Which I think is where I'm really going with that in 100. So you started with the organization back in 2018.
Yes,
right?
2018. So I've been there 7 years. It is actually 7 years that I was appointed. I effectively started on August 1st. But once I was named, it started rolling from there. And I think, being the first woman in a space like that traditionally had been held by men, and probably where I sensed it the most, or I felt the impact the most, was in representing the chamber across the country, with other chamber peers and colleagues, because I definitely felt that I walked into spaces where I looked different. I was a woman of color, and 7 years ago, that did feel a little strange. today, it's amazing how much times have evolved, where those same spaces are very diverse today.
So you're also a Pasadena resident, right?
I am.
So you're very close and connected to the impact of the Eaton Canyon fire and Altadena, right? And you told me you toured the area. You told me to share that off air, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I consider this my community. I'm right outside the evacuation zone, the Pasadena, Altadena area. I've lived there over 20 years. It's where my kids grew up, where they went to school, where they the golf course, the community centers, the schools where they played their various sports. So this very much felt very personal. Not only the fact that very close friends were impacted, it was one of those things when those very early days, I felt like I had a foot in from a personal perspective and what my close friends were going through and my kids. And then on the chamber side, the business side, how we could mobilize quickly to get information out to people and to assemble resources.
Yeah, because I saw an Instagram video way early in January. I think it was around January 15th, where immediately you put out a message to your members. What are your members telling you? Like, what are you hearing from members? Like, because we think about Los Angeles County, right, and its gross domestic product, right? Yeah, I mean, by itself, it could be its own country, certainly its own state, and we're looking at an economic output loss of billions of dollars, right, and thousands of small business owners impacted. When I think I read 13,000 employees.
Absolutely.
What are you hearing? Like, what are they telling you?
Well, definitely in those early days, I mean, even while the fires were still burning, we knew that the humanitarian aid would be there. We would have, FEMA come in. We would have the Red Cross mobilizing. So many other humanitarian efforts would come in. But it was our members, several of our members, a coalition that we had brought together during the pandemic called Together for LA, where we really brought the county, the city, the Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation, and several other groups together to say small businesses always are on the losing end, and many times they're the last ones that we think about. And so it was LAEDC that put out these numbers about how many businesses were impacted. Their initial assessment was that it was 1,800 businesses, and that about 40% of those were in the Altadena area, and that the jobs, exactly what you said, about 13,000 jobs that were impacted. So we knew that the magnitude of this fire was something that no other city had ever seen before, and the economic fallout from that would be significant. Mobilizing the resources that were available through the federal government, whether it was FEMA or the SBA. A lot of folks in Los Angeles weren't familiar that the SBA also provides disaster recovery.
Those are loans, though, and a lot of people didn't necessarily.
But they're very low interest loans,
sure,
with favorable terms.
Sure.
So we in those early days when that was available, that was something that was important to get out to folks.
Right. Well, we have long passed those kind of deadlines, and we're going to talk about the fund. I want to. But what are your members saying? Right. I mean, because last week we had Darren Lyons on, who is a master barber. A couple of weeks ago, we had Perry Bennett on, the owner of Perry's Joint, very popular sandwich shop in the community, who does a lot of work. And they talk about Darren DL talked about his building survived, but his business burned to the ground. Right, customers gone. Right. Perry talked about business kind of stabilized. It's not the same, but it's stabilized because the disaster workers that are in the area. He's right on the border, but that's not sustainable. Talking with the gardener, right, who says how many houses,
His customers are
his
gone.
customers are gone, right? What are they telling you? Like, do you find yourself as an advocate, or what's your day like helping
Those
them?
stories are important to us because there a lot of times not only is there a financial implication, but there's a policy implication. So you're talking about a lot of businesses that had brick and mortar. They have a shop that was either damaged or it was fully destroyed. Or if it wasn't, it was in a burn area where everybody's gone. So the impact we know is significant to those. But let's also recall that there are home-based businesses. So in Altadena, there are many people that start their business out of their home. One of our members, she was working on a product that she's launching, a chip, a potato chip. It's not a potato chip. It's made out of cactus, but it's a chip that she has formulated, manufactured, but the inventory was in her garage. The exhibit booths that she had were in her home. Her computer files, her everything, her home was gone. And in her particular case, insurance became an issue. We had another member that also had a home-based business where they had the right insurance but had an insurance gap. So insurance is something that has been a top issue with many of these members. The other thing that I hear from a lot of those businesses in the community, you know these areas, you know Altadena, you know how it's they're businesses that are from the community.
Right.
So I spoke to business owners that ran the pet grooming store that also lost their home. They lost their business, they lost their home. I spoke to other businesses that maybe had a damage to their business, but their home was gone. So they're in another area, maybe in Orange County or living in another area. So the displacement that these fires caused is something that is so significant that that's the piece that I worry about when I hear from our members and I hear from our small businesses. How do we get that back?
Right. I mean, because I think people don't, outside of the area, our show is national, and, we kind of whimsically said Altadena, Wakanda, if Wakanda were real, Altadena would be one of his communities, but there's no Starbucks in Altadena, right? Like something that most people take for granted that there's one, or a Dunkin',
or the Jack in the Box.
Or this, right?
You don't find those there. And I share that with people all the time that are either outside of the area or outside of the state.
I mean, I'm going to Fair Oaks Burger if I'm going to go to Altadena to get a hamburger, right? So, if I want a sandwich, I'm going to go to Perry's joint, right?
I will say to people, these are homegrown organic businesses. These are really real community-based businesses that came out of the community. Someone that lived up the street now came into the commercial corridor on Fair Oaks or Lake or wherever that might be. I've toured those areas and seen those businesses, and you're not going to find a McDonald's there.
So I was asking, I'm talking with Maria Salinas, who's the president and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. And, I'm like, so do you find yourself more in an advocacy role? Like, are people calling you, I don't know what to do? Because I know, when people lost their homes, they lost their documents. Same with the business. They may have lost important documents, articles of incorporation, et cetera, et cetera. What are they calling you and your office for?
Telling us all those stories, all the barriers, all the issues that they are dealing with when it came to the immediate recovery and now as they face rebuilding. And the reason why that's important for us to hear those stories, because we're in several meetings from an advocate perspective. The LA Chamber has long been the business advocate. But in this case, being able to go to Sacramento, we were in Sacramento, and we brought up some of these issues that homeowners, business owners are facing. We were in Washington, D.C. in March and got to meet with the Department of Commerce and FEMA and SBA, and just to make them aware of things like what you just mentioned, like they don't have documents. They, have lost access to information that is key in the normal course of rebuilding and recovery. So we have to be prepared to meet them where they are and in the situation that they find themselves in. So is that an advocate role? Absolutely. I think that's something that is so important for the LA Chamber to lend its voice on behalf of those business owners, and I would even say on behalf of those residents that are, struggling with whether it's insurance or some other permitting that they might need cleanup.
Does the chamber offer are they helping members walk them through when we just got a few more seconds before we have to move forward, but are you helping them with that?
So we have partners that do a lot of technical assistance.
Okay.
So while we might not do it directly, we can identify these groups, these centers, go to these centers because that's what they're for. They're for this type of information sharing. And I know at Pasadena Community College does a lot of that.
All right. Well, we're going to continue this conversation with Maria Salinas, who is the president and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. I want to learn a little bit more about their recovery fund.
Yes.
When we come forward, you're listening to the Conversation Live, Altadena Rising. I'm your host, James Farr. We are sponsored in part by Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. Stay with us. We got your black.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580. We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Welcome forward. You're listening to the Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, and I'm your host, James Farr, and we are sponsored by Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. I'm chuckling because, somebody once made a joke about me and Sherman Hensley and George. Anyway, that's a whole nother situation. But no, upward mobility for a lot, moving on up to the east side. Small business is the heartbeat of the American economy. And I have the pleasure of being joined this morning by Maria Salinas, who is the president and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce, who I just learned is a certified public accountant.
I am. That is my background and my training, and I still have my license to this day.
Well, I appreciate it. It all makes sense. Your punctuality. She's over here with a calculator managing our minutes to make sure that we stay on time. But I want to talk more about this recovery fund.
Yes.
That the Chambers administering through the partnership you have with Lindustry. But, here's the thing, though, Maria, and, I ask burning questions every episode, right? And the burning question here for you is this just one of these situations where you got to be connected to get connected? Or can the average small business owner actually apply for this? Because there's an issue with equity.
Absolutely.
A lot of corporations raised a lot of money. I'm not going to talk about any funds right now because we're talking about yours. I don't want to conflate things. But how is this going to reach black folks? How is this going to reach brown business owners?
So definitely, that's such a great question. And that was something that we also toiled with. Like, how do we make sure that it gets to those that are most impacted? Being a chamber organization, we have great partners, and we have partners in community. And one of our partners that we have in the Altadena area is the Altadena Chamber of Commerce, who I know has been bombarded with the small businesses. I've toured the area with Judy Matthews, their president and CEO, and have gone into these neighborhoods where the commercial centers are right around the corner. African American businesses that, family generations that have retained those businesses, and now it's gone. And to see all of that, I have that same concern as well. I want to make sure it gets to those that are the most impacted and affected. And the way we did that was to really work with communities, organizations that were in those neighborhoods, like an Altadena chamber that could tell us, these are the small businesses that need to hear when this is launched, when this is available, how to do it, and how to connect with technical assistance partners. And this is where Lendistry comes into play and why it was so important to have them as a partnership.
Who is Lendistry? So perhaps the audience isn't familiar. What?
Lendistry is our administrator for the Relief Fund. Lendistry is a community development financial institution. So they're a lender for small businesses, micro enterprises that maybe don't have that access to a traditional bank. And they're supported by many banks themselves, large organizations, and that's how they use the capital to then make sure it gets out to those that are the most in need.
So corporations like Bank of America, I saw
they would have a partnership.
Others, they're the ones that seeded this fund initially, right? So I think about somebody like Perry, Bennett, Perry's Joint, small business, as I told you in the earlier segment. His business is maintaining, but it's not sustainable. How could a business like that benefit from? So
the fund right now has grants that are available in various increments up to $25,000, and because of the partnership that we have with Lendistry, they're currently working on rolling out. And I don't want to make any announcements just yet, but we're definitely looking.
We'll let you. You want to make an announcement right now?
Well, we're definitely looking at financial products that are based on the fact that we're in an emergency situation, so with very favorable terms. So we'll be looking at that as well for the future.
So it's $10,000, $15,000,
up to
$25,000, and that has more to do with your annual gross income or
Yes.
revenue in terms of what because I went online, I went to your website, I wanted to see how easy it is to actually fill out.
Did you think it was easy? Because we worked on that.
I thought it was very simplistic,
Okay,
right?
good.
I did. I thought it was easy to navigate. I think the request for the information is pretty straightforward. Although I'm concerned some may not have access to those documents immediately. But this is Small Business Week, right?
Right.
And there is an expiration. There's a sunset. People need to apply if they are going to be considered, right? By when?
But yes, so the date right now is June 5th. And we've been, full court press with our partners, not just the chamber, with partners in community, with Lendistry, and making sure that this message gets out. So I really appreciate you having me here so that I can say if you have not had a chance to look at this particular fund and you're in the area, the evacuation area, the fire damage area, take a look at this application.
Now, are these funds restricted? What can they do with the funds?
The funds, the only restriction that we wanted to get across on this fund is please rebuild. We want to make sure that these businesses open back up, that they're well on their way
but what if the business
come
is open,
back
right?
into the community. Well, if they're open, they would qualify as well because they would be impacted.
Okay.
But I'm talking about if a business was completely devastated and it's gone.
Is there consideration preference? One, like DL said, his building is there, but his business burned to the ground, and so that I want to make sure that there's some equity in because we're not comparing tragedies, Altadena to Palisades, right?
And
Both can apply?
Both can apply. Both should go through that process, and definitely both can apply. It was very important to us to make sure that we also identified businesses that were impacted. So you could be impacted in that scenario. Your business is down, your clients are gone. That's an impact that is real.
How do they apply? Where should they call you? What website do they need to visit?
So our website is lachamber.com. It has a link where you can go to the Chamber LA Small Business Disaster Recovery Fund is linked on there, which will send you directly to where you can find the application.
I'll put some things up on our socials also, folks. You can also check in with me, DM me. I'll send you the information. Again, if you know folks who are small business owners and nonprofits as well,
and
right?
Nonprofits
there's
as
different
well.
requirements versus a LLC versus an S corp versus. I was at a California Black Chamber of Commerce event just a couple of days ago, and they also had some different requirements. So it's very important that folks, get their documents.
And if you're going to put it on your website, we can also give you the link that goes directly to Lendistry, because they have a link as well.
We'll absolutely get it up. Again, my guest has been Maria Salinas, who is the president and CEO of the Los Angeles area Chamber of Commerce. Maria, thank you so much. I enjoyed this.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so important to get this information out. It really is very important to us to make sure that those that are impacted that hear this message, and I know your audience will definitely benefit of this information. And I really appreciate that you're doing this program on Altadena.
Thank you. We gotta do like a meetup or mix or something. When we come forward, we're gonna have some updates. You're listening to the conversation live, Altadena Rising. I'm your host, James Farr, and we are sponsored by Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580. When the flames subside, who ensures that the stories endure? At KBLA Talk 1580, we're committed to preserving the voices that shape our community. We know people have short memories, and as long as this Black Talk radio station is on the air, we will not let Altadena be forgotten. We are honored to announce that the Altadena Historical Society will officially archive our recent town hall alongside every episode of Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr. This is the show of record, the definitive source for tracking Altadena's roots, resilience, recovery, and reunion. These stories will now live on for students, scholars, researchers, and journalists seeking truth and legacy in the months and years to come. Because history isn't just made, it's honored, it's recorded, and it's passed forward. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
Welcome forward, KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to The Conversation Live. I'm your host, James Farr, and we are sponsored by Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. I think I told y'all earlier that this is the show of record, and we're chronicling for the nation the deadly and disastrous January 2025 Altadena Eaton Canyon fire. and really just looking at its devastation. This is the time when we do some updates, and I told you a little bit earlier, FEMA is a mess. I got to filter my language. Yeah, FEMA is a mess, and it is very reflective of the president y'all elected. I don't often get a chance to introduce members of our team that help put together this program, and I'm going to take this moment to do that. You've maybe heard me before we sign off, I think. Kim, Reggie, and obviously I'm going to do that again before we get out of here a little bit later on. But I got Nyla Shorter in the booth with me, and everybody that works on this program is from the local community. Nyla Shorter is a good family friend. She's an aspiring producer and just an overall talented. How you doing this morning, Nyla?
Good morning, James. I'm doing well, really well.
Cool. Now,
how are you?
I'm good. She's acting shy right now, but Nyla is not. Probably, it's like her entire family, the Shorter family, like they're a whole movement in the community, right? Like they move.
We're a tribe.
They're a tribe. Yeah, that's true. What are you hearing about like this show, Nyla? Like you're as I always say outside. What are people telling you?
Yeah, so I know a lot of people that attended the town hall, and they had a lot of great feedback. They were talking about just the energy and how the community has been coming together overall. I would say that with this show in particular, in tandem with local churches and organizations, there's lots of talk about people working together and organizations working together, like the Ashes to Anthem concert that just
Wasn't
happened.
that dope?
That was
Can I say dope about a church concert?
Yeah. That was dope.
It was most high. Can I? Never mind. No, that was a beautiful concert. Okay, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
Praise the Lord. It was great. I was actually talking to an aunt yesterday, and she was saying how impactful it was for her just to be there and to be around everybody, because people were looking for support and they were looking for a good time to kind of get their mind off of just the tragedy that's been happening. So I think it was really good.
All right, I got an assignment for you, because one of the things that a listener said is they want to hear from young people, and I don't know if you're definitely not a millennial, and I don't know if you're Z, Y. Yeah. Okay, but we good though. You good? But no, I need you to find me some young people to talk to. Right. I mean, I know a bunch of them, but I want you to curate that conversation, hear how it's affecting you young people, right?
I got you.
Yeah. I can call you young people, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting old. All right, so, well, it's coming up on that time. You know how we do it. Every Saturday, I get out of here with a message in the music, and I have a Saturday slap coming up for you. You're listening to the Conversation Live, Altadena Rising. I'm your host, James Farr, and we are sponsored by Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580. Broadcasting live from Lamert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio. KBLA Talk 1580.
And welcome forward. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, Conversation Live, Altadena Rising. I'm your host, James Farr, and it's that time of the program every week. We let the message come through the music. We are looking to find a way for the community to continue to, I still say are in this space of relief, in this space of as we move into recovery, as we move into rebuilding, as we move through these various phases. We still are in the roots, and, we want to help people find a way. So we're going to let the impressions take us out with this one.
So many people are living their lives with so much pain and sacrifice to lead a new life that's free from all sorrow, to make a way for a new tomorrow. We got to find So many people, child, with hope in their hearts, are trying to make a world in which they have an equal part. But what's the use in trying when nobody cares? Nowhere to turn to, people. It just isn't fair. We got to find a way, make a better day. Yeah, make a stand, lend a hand, do what is right, do what we can to bring joy to the land.
Yep. We definitely got to find a way. And before I get out of the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize that, while today is May 17th, that in 2 days, May 19th, Malcolm X would have been 100 years old. And I bet Malcolm would have helped us find a way out of this situation, and a lot of these situations that we still find ourselves in the way. Appreciate you letting me share this space with you. Big shout out to Kim, Reggie, Nyla, Simeon back there on the boards. And, I forgot, Sister Tiana, who does those graphics that you guys see on social media. I really appreciate all of y'all. Appreciate y'all listening. This is just my talk, my cursive. I speak sometimes in African American English vernacular. Some of y'all call it code switching, but I do appreciate Angela Roddick Wright with The Legal Lens is up next. She has an amazing show. I've told y'all I'm not a lawyer, but I learned a little bit about the law and lawyering every time I listen to her. Till we have another opportunity to speak with you, as always, Agape.